Yep.
This is James Holder for iFL TV in association with Matt Clean's Gym Marbella. We're in Fenway Park, Boston today, Boston, Massachusetts. With me, I've got Eddie Hearn. All right, Ed?
How are you, James?
I'm very well, very well.
Here we are, the Boston Red Sox. Couldn't believe it when I was coming here. Yeah. So it's a real honour to be here. I've always wanted to come to Fenway Park and heard a lot about it over the years. Yeah. It's actually the most famous baseball stadium in the world. Maybe, you know, with the Yankees, but you know, it's amazing to actually finally be here.
It's interesting enough to hear you say that for the first time ever.
Yes.
Fantastic. I heard some great news on Twitter today for your promotional company and for yourself as well. New five-year contract with Sky, which effectively is fantastic for yourself and going forward from here, building the fighters and the next generation of fighters. Could you talk to me a little bit about that, Ed?
Yeah, it's a new 5-year deal. We've got 1 year left, so we run now till 2021, which sounds like a year that you really shouldn't even be on the earth. It's massive news for British boxing, because in a world where boxing is not a priority among broadcasters, and you know, I think Sky deserve a huge amount of credit, whatever your opinion, because they're the only broadcaster that has consistently backed boxing for the last decade, 2 decades, you know. So, and we need a broadcast that's going to support what we're trying to do. We need a broadcast that's going to get behind an elite stable of fighters that we've built, which I believe is the best stable of fighters ever assembled in British boxing history. And it's 120 shows over 6 years. It's the same amount of shows. You know, and it's a massive shot in the arm for what we're trying to do. We've had 3 years at it now. Boxing's gone to a new level. You know, you would have seen that from your numbers and just from digital content in general. Now we've got to take it to a new level, and it's a real honour to be flying the flag for boxing, and it's a massive shot in the arm for us, for our fighters, of course, but also for British boxing fans, because they know they've got a home of boxing for the next 6 years.
Does it sort of validate the work you guys have been doing while you've had this deal, this current deal? Because for Sky to show such a huge commitment and go 5 years on the table, it must be fantastic.
Sky are very happy with what we've done, and we're very happy with what they've done. That's why it's a great relationship. You know, we probably got engaged 3 years ago, and now we've finally tied the knot. You know, 6 more years is a long time, but I think that, you know, on the whole, I'm not saying everything that we do is perfect, but we're growing the sport of boxing. So, you know, you probably get some fans who say, well, we'd like to see more 50-50 fights, of course, but we still have a job to do to build and grow fighters and develop them. Yeah. Now we're at a stage where actually a lot of those fighters are developed and we can jump into some bigger fights. But I think on the whole, when you look at the schedule moving forward, and you know, I mean, just looking at it now, obviously you've got James DeGale fighting Andre Durrell this week. Next week is 3 world title fights. Anthony Joshua, 2 British title fights, Commonwealth title fight. Then you've got Paul Smith against Andre Ward on June the 20th. You've got the Fab Four, I call them now, in Liverpool on June the 26th. Price, Bellew, Callum and Rocky in really big fights. Then you've got a double world title header on July the 18th with Scott Quigg, and also with Darlis Perez and Anthony Crolla. So the schedule's looking great, and more to come in September, October and November, but more importantly, more to come over the next 6 years. So many great fighters in Britain at the moment. Now, we've got elite world champions, we've got fighters challenging for world titles. We've got 4 of them in the next week. You know, we've got young fighters, better than, I believe, any young fighters in other countries all over the world. You know, Joshua, Campbell, Callum Smith, you know, so many good young fighters. And it's just a great time. And I think Journo summed it up today. I saw he tweeted and he said, with the football deal done and billions spent over a period of time, other sports are in danger, and the great news is that boxing's not. 6 years commitment from Sky Sports means boxing is back, and boxing is big, and more importantly, James, for you and me, it means that we've got a job for another 6 years.
I like that.
And for our fighters, wow, what an opportunity. They can grow with us, they can become pay-per-view stars, and you know, it's an honour to be flying the flag and to be Sky Sports' exclusive promoter.
Going forward from here, was there anything you've learned in the last 3 years that you'll do different in this TV deal?
I mean, I think a little bit of bad luck over the last 6 months has made a few of our cards a little bit weaker than they should have been.
Would that be with injuries to fighters before?
Yeah, and there's not a lot you can do about that. For sure we want more 50-50 fights, and that's something that we have to deliver. I think as the stable continues to expand, you're going to see more and more fighters fighting each other. You know, you've got Brooke against Frankie Gavin as an example this weekend. I think you're going to see more and more of that.
Does it come a point where you have to see what you've got in the stable, in the camp, where fighters are kind of building up good records and they're, as I said, learning their trade?
Yeah, but you can't, you know, just because fans want 50-50 fights, you know, you can't just sling a fighter in who's not ready. Yeah. And then someone will say, well, if you're going to put him in an easy fight, don't put him on TV. But we have to, because we have to build that fighter, their profile. You can't just hide them away somewhere. So, like I said yesterday, we're at a stage now with quite a few of the guys, like Joshua Campbell, Martin Ward, Cal Yafai, Callum Smith. They're ready to go. Yeah. So you're not going to see them in the fights that aren't meaningful anymore. But we have to do what's right, and there is an element of trust that we are doing things right, and that's all you can ask for the fans. Is, you know, I'll always explain what we're doing. You'll never see me hide. You know, you guys can ask me whatever you want. I answer virtually everything I can on Twitter.
No, you don't.
I'm never hiding, do you know what I mean? And I'll give you reasons why I'm doing everything. And sometimes, you know, they're unavoidable. Sometimes there's a method to the madness. All I'm saying to the fans is just trust me, because I think we've done a great job for British boxing in the last 3 years, and I think we're going to do an even better job for the next 6.
I mean, Matchroom have kind of got the Sky deal as kind of the golden ball, if you like. Do you think we can see more cross-pollination between yourselves and maybe some of the other boxing promoters, not just in the UK, but...
You know, you've seen me work with boxing promoters all over the world. You know, if you're talking about Frank Warren, then it's difficult because he's got his own channel. So he wants all his fighters to box on BoxNation. I want all my fighters to box on Sky Sports. It's not that we can't stand each other. I don't think he's going to send me a Christmas present, but generally, he's got a job to do for his channel, and I've got a job to do for my channel. So I think the only way you're going to get our fighters fighting each other, really, to be quite honest, is in purse bid scenarios. Yeah. And, you know, you got it in. There'll be times when, John Ryder, but you know, there'll be times when, I mean, look, Ryder Blackwell. I mean, there's another example. Hennessy fighter, John Ryder against Nick Blackwell. Frank Warren bid, Mick Hennessy bid. We won. So therefore, we box on our shows. You know, to be fair to them, they've got Craig Evans, who's a Frank Warren fighter, fighting on our show. That wasn't a purse bid scenario. You know, they agreed to fight, but everything's, you know, it's a case-by-case scenario on every fighter. Yeah. If you've got a fighter that needs to fight and there's an opportunity and a great offer to box on another show, it's got to be considered. You know, you're seeing out here, we're boxing on, we've got loads of fighters boxing in the States at the moment, boxing in Germany. If it's the right opportunity for the fighter, we will take it. And, you know, we'll sit down, but ultimately it's the fighter and their manager that decide what they want to do. We just advise and provide the opportunities for them to consider. So in terms of working with other promoters, not a problem at all. But our priority is to keep our fighters and provide great content for Sky Sports.
Can we expect to see some new signings? There was a point where every Friday there was a new signing being reeled off.
I don't want to sound, you know, arrogant or whatever, but there's not, you know, when I look at British boxing, there's not many fighters that you know, I need to sign. Some great fighters out there, and I get, I mean, I don't know, probably a dozen approaches a week for new fighters to be with Matchroom, but a point where you actually can't provide them with what they need. You can't develop those fighters in the right way. So we're pretty much full up, you know. And listen, some fighters will retire, and then, you know, some fighters might leave, and then they can be replaced, and, you know, but we've got the creme de la creme of British boxing, and I believe there's not a fighter in the UK that doesn't want to be with Sky Sports. That's my opinion. You can fight whenever you want, you can become a huge star, you can make considerable money, and if you're good enough, you can become a pay-per-view fighter. And that is the pinnacle for any young fighter. It's what they all want. So we're in a great position, but we mustn't get complacent. You know, that's happened to people before, and it's ruined them. So we've got to make sure we keep pushing the boundaries. And I think the competition will make us do that as well, not just in the UK, but in America as well. And listen, just because we've got the lion's share of the dates in the UK, doesn't mean there aren't other promoters pushing us. Everybody's trying. Everyone would love to see me finished, you know, and that's my motivation, to make sure we're #1. And their motivation is driving me to become #1. So.
All right. Well, listen, don't worry, you're not the only one with a massive target on their back.
Is that you? Yeah. What, you as well?
Talk to you real soon.
Okay, cheers mate. Bye.